Hey guys, Marcel still reporting from the EU LCS studios. Even though there were no games today, we're still joined by birthday boy Quickshot. Happy birthday, how are you feeling?
Sad that we didn't have games. Luckily had a good birthday with the exception of the show. And just hopefully looking forward to actually seeing the quarterfinal.
So I'm not really sure what we should talk about, but what I want to talk about to like cast and everything is probably like how teams going on into the playoffs, how they look, and are there any like surprises? Let's start with, for example, last series, right? We had
Unicorns
versus Giants. So I think it was kind of a surprise that Unicorn showed up so strong, even though they were like the last seeded team. Do you feel that they prepared better on this patch, or what's your take on the Unicorns right now?
I think beyond a shadow of a doubt, the team prepared better. I was very pleasantly surprised at how clever Unicorns were, because in every single game they prioritized getting top lane ahead. Move spent a lot of his time up there working with Chachi. The Kennen pick in game 1 really gave Smitty J another shitty day, and it just felt like the Unicorns had the first 10 to 15 minutes of the game plan way better than Giants. Every single game they showed up, they had the right calls, they got the right tower, they got the right kills. So that just set them up very well. And it just felt like Giants simply weren't ready to deal with the decisions that Unicorns were putting forward.
So do you feel that Giants misread the patch? Do you feel that the patch where, I mean, Crapper told me it's a pretty interesting statistic where Giants didn't really play any standard lanes games at all. It was like they really hide their weaknesses in the lane swaps, and now they have to actually play the 2-on-2, but they failed to kind of prepare. Like, do you feel that the patch really cost them the playoffs run?
So I think there's two different things. I don't think the patch cost them the playoff run. I think that goes to their players, right? Because you hide your weakness of Sunstar as an ADC and not really fitting in with Hustle and Beast in that bottom lane by clever lane swaps, right? That you can practice. So number one, that's where Veritas and Hilly had an advantage. But then more than that, when you look at how Veritas and Hilly would back after getting enough for BF Sword and then instantly go top, instantly punish Smitty J and get tower. That is a team decision. That is a macro decision. That is a strategy decision. And it's something we've seen. LMS did it. LCK did it. Like, there was no surprises, you know? So in my mind, it was being underprepared and having weaker players role for role that allowed Unicorns to go ahead. Yes, the patch is a factor in that, but it's not the patch that cost them. You know, the patch highlighted the weaknesses, and that's the way I like to look at it.
Okay, so today's game, it would have been H2k versus Fnatic, of course, Forgiven starting. It's going to be replayed on Tuesday. I'm not sure if the interview is coming out before or not, but we can talk about both teams, right? So H2k, Forgiven, he came in 5-0. The team looked a lot stronger, right? So do you feel that this is the H2k patch? Is this maybe like finally the time where H2k can make a run into playoffs?
I hate that you ask me that because it's H2k you're asking me about, right? So on paper, yes. On paper, Forgiven is a better 2v2 player, pushing towers, standard lanes. On paper, they outshine Reckless and Yellow Star in nearly every metric. And on paper, Prolly has a proven history of being one of the best lane swap coaches. Yes, lane swaps are removed, but in theory, understanding lane assignments, understanding lane pressure is something Prolly's shown he's good at. But Jankos and Vanda have been players that have shown in the postseason in playoffs, they have a tendency to not perform up to the level. So I think, yes, this is a matchup that in theory and on paper, according to everything that I know, H2K should win. But unfortunately, you cannot take into account the tilt factor. You cannot take into account the personality clashes. This is a team that has been outspoken about their own teammates. And now you're putting them together in a high-pressure, highly volatile situation. Lose game 1, get smashed by Fnatic, by a surprise pick, by a messed up standard lane. Maybe Forgiven loses to Reckless and Yellowstar. What does that do to the team mentality? So, you know, those are questions that I think are bigger, and you can't actually answer them until you see them on the Rift. But if I were to make a prediction, if I were to say what I think would happen, these reasons are why I think H2K has a better shot at winning the series.
So, if we take it into context that Fnatic has always been a team that shows up at playoffs, right? But they have been looking, like, from all playoffs teams, they have been looking the worst. Like, from my perspective, their draft was, like, they were really bad. But it's a new patch, so we could see, like, a small thing, how they drafted and everything. Do you feel that maybe Fnatic is going to show up and have, like, better preparation than coming into this whole split?
Yes, I think they will. I actually think the change in support staff is a positive one for them. I think bringing in Nico, in terms of personality, game knowledge, in terms of what he can bring from a discussion point of view, that value, I think, cannot be understated. This is a guy who has been around multiple teams, and we know he was a high-level player. He actually attempted to go pro at some point, so that is going to help them out. I also think simplifying the game when you have a jungler like Spirit is good. Because Spirit from his time in World Elite, exceptional high-pressure, high-farm player. When you look at Spirit from IEM, he put all of Fnatic in his back and carried that team with his Lee Sin. This is a guy who can play multiple styles. And if you simplify the game, if you minimize some of the decision-making, I think they've got the capabilities. For me, the biggest question mark is actually going to be Yellowstar and Reckless. You know, because I think you look at Yellowstar, he's had a poor to average summer split. He had a disappointing spring split with TSM. But he was a serviceable, workable support in the playoffs. You know, I think that's why TSM made it to finals, even though they eventually lost to CLG. So depending on how big that difference is, can Spirit pick up the slack, and what level does Yellowstar come in with? That is the deciding factor for me in how far they can go in a series versus H2K. Okay.
So let's talk a bit about more stuff that is not actually in the game, but there was like some cool tweets, I think, from some players, some shots fired back and forth. So I think personally it's awesome, right? So because it hypes up the game, it gets like the energy going. Fans know that, okay, there's like actually something at stake and they want to see it. So are you on the same page? Do you think we need like more light trash talk?
Absolutely. I'm a big fan of it. I'm actually a big fan of teams, for better or worse, whether they're very happy about it, whether it's joking or whether it's serious, actually interacting with one another. It's one of the things that I think the European LCS lacks a little bit in comparison to, say, the North American LCS, is the pro players actually being outspoken, actually having measurable, trackable, like, personality types. Yeah. Everybody knows Cyanide's a troll. Everybody knows Cyanide messes around and has jokes and says ridiculous things, and that's like a brand he's built up. Everyone knows Forgiven is opinionated and has strong feelings. And I think that's a good thing. I think as a fan, you can associate, you can attach for those things. So yes, the banter, the burns back and forth, put whatever value on it you like, but the entertainment value, the information, the fact that it adds substance to just the game, I think is valuable. And as a shoutcaster, it gives me something else to talk about. It's a bonus for me.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. So I think one last topic what we should touch on, because I think you were involved too. You made a few tweets, and the topic is the media ballot, right? So some teams or some players or some coaches, I don't want to name names, but they decided to not take the vote very seriously. And you said, yeah, someone specific, Thorin, pointed out these players and coaches that you actually like ruined history with that, because I can't go back in time and actually give like a homage to players that performed exceptionally well. And he was like very, very angry about that. And then you jumped in and said, yeah, I'm glad those people got called out, because we need to take this very serious, right? So what's your stance on like voting? Who should vote? Should players vote? Maybe can you talk a bit like about that?
Yeah, of course. I mean, so there's a couple of topics. I'm going to start first of all my mentions on Twitter. I am glad that people got called out for not taking it seriously. I am glad that the public ballot was made viewable to everybody, so you could actually see who respected the integrity of the award. I do, however, just want to call out that if you look at the results, especially with the European focus, in terms of the all-LCS teams, I'm fortunate enough to know where the MVP and the rookie's going as well. I think there are very serious cases that all of the awards, the final awards, are accurate and are representative. And you can debate the top 2 or 3, but that's the point, right? You can actually debate those top 2 or 3. It's not like randomly somebody who was undeserving has ended up there. So I'm glad the system proved that the right players were nominated. I am disappointed that the system wasn't explained clearly enough or seriously enough that everybody opted in, right? So that's a learning that we've taken away. We've already had a discussion around how we can make it clear, how we can help educate the voters, whoever they are, to actually take it more seriously. And if they don't want to invest that time, and if they don't want to, be seriously considered, that it is perfectly acceptable to say, I opt out, I choose not to participate, right? So that's one side. Then looking at the second side, I think at the moment, specifically with the European LCS, we do not have a large enough ecosystem in terms of third-party media covering to give a non-broadcast focused vote, right? Let's say you just took the shoutcasters and you just took the press. Most of the EU guys would outnumber the press at this point in time, in this split, all right? It would be very even. It might be like 50-50. And then you've got this broadcast team that tends to, we work so closely together, we share stories together. Even though we have our own opinions, they're going to be molded in a more similar direction, right? So I actually like including coaches and players for the time being. And I think one of the ways that we can maybe circumnavigate the system for next year, if we include coaches and players, maybe don't allow them to vote for their own team. Maybe don't allow them, because then every single team is denied, one set of votes. Yeah. That therefore makes it easier, that therefore maybe adds a level of integrity. So I think these are things that we can look at going forward for spring of next year, how we can make adjustments to the current system. And it's just something that will take a little bit more time, a little bit more refinement, and maybe bouncing some more ideas around both internally and externally.
Yeah, that was pretty easy. Thank you so much for that statement. And I think, we covered the interview. We touched on all topics, and hopefully we have a great game on Tuesday, right?
Yes, I certainly hope so. I can actually get a late birthday present. That's the plan.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for taking the time, despite the circumstances, and I hope you have a wonderful birthday still, yeah?
Thank you very much. I'll have a few beers on the night.
Of course. And of course, thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys want to check out more stuff, theScore esports.com. Sign up, download the app, follow us on Twitter to never miss an interview again, and yeah, see you guys next time.